My name is Henry, and today I'm going to tell you a story about betrayal, pride, and a confrontation that changed everything. It started with a younger man circling around my marriage and ended with a public showdown he never saw coming. Trust me, what you're about to hear will keep you hooked until the last second. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're watching from. Every single comment fuels me to bring you more intense and eye-opening stories like this one. Leave now before you regret this, old man. That was the line thrown at me the night it all came to a head. I was 49, no stranger to discipline, and had spent 11 years in an elite tactical unit before settling into civilian life in Riverbend, Montana. The kid standing in front of me thought his biceps gave him authority. His name was Tyler Mason, and for a few months he had been training my wife Claire at Titan Fitness Club. Training sessions that stretched suspiciously long, late-night messages about workouts that didn't sound like workouts at all. I leaned against the doorway of the gym while Tyler strutted toward me, full of swagger, as if he owned the place. The evening crowd was packed in, office workers sweating out their stress, college kids competing for attention. Everyone sensed what was about to happen. Tyler raised his voice so half the room could hear. "You're not enough for her, Henry." He wanted an audience, wanted the crowd as his witnesses. I didn't bite. Instead, I walked to a bench, sat down, and slowly untied my steel-toe boots with frayed laces. Tyler followed, mistaking my silence for weakness. He flexed in the mirror, angling himself for the best profile. "Claire says you've gone soft," he sneered. Phones were already out. This kind of spectacle was social media gold, an aging husband being challenged by a young trainer. I placed one boot neatly beside me, working carefully on the other while Tyler kept running his mouth. He cracked his knuckles, circling like a predator. "Last chance, washed-up guy. Walk away, and maybe I'll let Claire down easy when she tells me about you later." The crowd shifted restlessly, hungry for drama. But what they didn't understand was that Tyler had already lost the second he turned this into a public circus. I looked up at him for the first time that night. "Are you finished running your mouth, kid?" Over a decade ago, when I was leaving the military, I met Claire at a loan department office. She was sharp, confident, dressed in crisp suits that made her stand out. I admired her calm control with angry customers. After a year together, we got married, bought a place in the Brookhaven district, and even talked about kids that never came. Life settled into routine. But I'd learned to notice patterns, and Claire's patterns had been shifting. Extra hours at the gym, new outfits that revealed more skin, a sharper edge in her tone when she talked about her day. I had asked her once, gently. She brushed it off, saying it was just a midlife fitness kick. Then Tyler's name began creeping into our conversations. At first it was, "The new trainer said this." Then, "Tyler recommends that exercise." Later, the late-night texts arrived, supposedly about scheduling sessions. I'd been in enough tense zones, Helmand Province for one, to know when someone was probing for weak spots. A couple of weeks ago, I drove by the gym during her supposed workout time. Her car wasn't there. When I confronted her, she claimed she'd switched to mornings, yet her sports duffel sat untouched in the closet, and she came home smelling of scented lotion rather than sweat. So I watched more closely. She showered immediately when she got home, even though she said she already had been at the gym. She began keeping her phone on the table with the screen turned over. Small signs, but they stacked up. Yesterday I sealed it. At an uptown cafe, I saw Claire laughing beside Tyler, leaning in, touching his arm the way wives don't touch trainers. They never noticed me there, but I saw enough. Tyler believed he was the first young man to catch an older woman's attention. He thought muscle and youth gave him an edge. He had no idea what kind of man he was playing with. Tyler believed muscles and youth gave him an edge. What he didn't realize was that experience wasn't just about strength. It was about timing, patience, and knowing exactly when to strike. I'd ignored warning signs for too long, convinced myself to trust Claire when I should have pressed harder. That was my mistake. Tyler's was worse. He dragged this into the open and made it about pride. I finished securing my steel-toe boots with frayed laces and rose slowly from the bench. Tyler was still busy feeding his audience, basking in the attention, unaware that his performance was already unraveling. "So what's it going to be, washed-up guy?" he taunted, shoulders squared. Are you going to make a move or just sit around like you do at home? That last jab confirmed my suspicions. Claire had been venting about our marriage to him, twisting private moments into excuses for her choices. I stretched my back, taking my time. To Tyler, it looked like stiffness, proof of age. He was half right. I wasn't 25 anymore. But those years had given me something his mirror-practiced moves never could. Tyler, I said evenly, you've been training my wife for a few months now. He smirked, finally convinced I'd stepped into his game. Exactly. And let me tell you, she's really dedicated. The crowd snickered at the innuendo, and Tyler flexed for their benefit. He was milking every second, treating my humiliation like a stage act. Dedicated, I repeated, nodding. That's true. Claire always finishes what she starts, some thing, and my tone unsettled him, but he covered it with another sneer. Maybe you should take notes, old man. Learn what it takes to keep a woman's attention. I scanned the room. 43 people. Phones recording from every angle. 2 exits, one behind him, one to my left. Tyler leaned forward, weight on his toes. His stance was sloppy, some fake boxer pose picked up from YouTube tutorials. It looked tough enough for the cameras, but real fights weren't won with appearances. You know what 11 years in an elite tactical unit taught me, kid? I asked, rolling my shoulders loose. Patience. How to wait for the right moment. Tyler grinned wide. Elite unit, huh? And I'm a Marine Raider. The crowd roared with laughter. They thought he was in control, the young bull lining up to humiliate the older man. He started toward me, probably planning to grab my shirt, rough me up a little for the audience. That's when I let the polite mask drop and showed him a different smile, the kind my unit once saw before breaching doors in Helmand Province, the smile that meant talking time was over. You're right about one thing, Tyler, I said as I shifted into a stance he wouldn't recognize. It's finished before it even begins. He swung first, a right cross fueled by gym-trained muscle, all power, no finesse. I tilted slightly, letting the punch sail past my ear, then guided his momentum with a light touch to his shoulder. He stumbled, crashing into the weight rack. 45-pound plates thundered to the floor, echoing like a gunshot. The room exploded in laughter and gasps. Tyler scrambled upright, his face red, eyes darting to the phones, capturing every second. Lucky dodge, washed up guy, he spat, but I could hear the crack in his confidence. Was it? I asked calmly, not moving an inch. Tyler came at me low, trying a football-style tackle. Maybe it worked against other gym bros who fought like they were in a movie, but I wasn't there when he arrived. I stepped aside at the last instant and nudged his momentum just enough to send him headfirst into the rowing machine. The thud of his skull against the padded seat echoed, followed by the slap of him hitting the floor. His hair was a mess now, confusion stamped across his face. What the hell? He gasped, crawling to his knees. You're giving everything away, I told him evenly. You drop your shoulder before a punch. You lean forward before a charge. Amateur mistakes. The room went silent, except for the constant clicks and hums of phones recording. Tyler's image as the confident alpha male was collapsing, each failure archived on video. Panic flickered in his eyes as he realized this wasn't the show he'd promised. Stop running and fight me like a man, he shouted, lunging again. I caught his wrist mid-swing, redirected his weight, and spun him into the leg press machine. The impact shook the floor, and more phones came up, likely streaming live. Sweat bled through his fitted shirt. His swagger was gone, replaced by frustration and the rising panic of someone losing in front of the entire Titan Fitness Club. How are you doing this? He demanded, blood trickling from a split lip. And years in an elite tactical unit, I reminded him. You thought I was bluffing. His narrowed eyes told me he understood he'd miscalculated, but pride locked him in place. Backing down now wasn't an option, not with the crowd pressing in. I don't care what you used to be, he spat. You're just an old man now. He lunged with a wild haymaker that could have ended me if it connected. I ducked under it, let him spin past, then gave him a light shove toward the dumbbell rack. He crashed hard, metal clanging as weights rolled him on, crossed the floor. Members jumped out of the way, laughter rippling louder each time he failed. "Stay down, kid," I told him flatly. "You're making it worse." But Tyler couldn't. His whole reputation was bleeding out in front of dozens of witnesses. Desperate, he snatched a 15-pound dumbbell from the floor and swung it like a club. Gasps filled the air. This wasn't showmanship anymore. This was dangerous. That's when I ended the game. I caught his wrist mid-swing, pressed a nerve cluster I'd learned about in combat training, and his hand went instantly numb. The weight crashed to the floor with a heavy thud. "Assault with a weapon," I said quietly, tightening my grip just enough for the message to sink in. "Is that really the road you want?" Color drained from his face. He struggled to pull away, but against 11 years of military conditioning, 3 years of gym lifts meant nothing. His voice broke. "Let me go." I released him. Tyler staggered back, clutching his limp hand, his arrogance replaced by raw fear. "You want to know what I really learned out there, Tyler?" I raised my voice so the whole gym could hear. "Not just fighting, reading people, spotting threats, knowing when someone's been passing information to the enemy." The room was frozen. Even the background music seemed to dim as I continued. "I've been watching you and Claire for months. The so-called workout sessions that ended at corner cafes, the late-night texts disguised as schedules, the extra showers, the phone kept with the screen turned over." His face went ghost white. He hadn't expected this in public. "She told you about me, didn't she? About the long hours, the distance, how the spark was gone?" Tyler's eyes darted around, searching for an escape, but the crowd closed him in. Every phone was still recording, sealing his humiliation into permanence. "What she didn't tell you," I said, holding the silence, "is why I've been buried in work. I've been paying for Margaret's cancer treatments, tracking down specialists, fighting insurance companies, doing everything I can to keep her alive." The words froze in the air. Tyler's chest heaved, sweat dripping, panic creeping into his eyes. "Claire doesn't even know yet," I continued, my voice steady. "I wanted to surprise her when everything was lined up, but maybe tonight's the right time for all truths to come out." I pulled out my phone, scrolled, and pressed Claire's number on speaker. The ringtone echoed through Titan Fitness Club until her voice answered crisp and clear. "Henry, I'm just leaving the office. Is everything all right?" "I'm here at the gym," I said, never looking away from Tyler. "Talking with your trainer." A pause. Then her voice faltered. "Henry, I can explain." "No need," I cut her off. "Tyler already gave me the highlights, spoke about your dedication to training, how committed you've been." Tyler shook his head wildly, mouthing no, panic dripping from every gesture. "Henry, please," Claire's voice cracked. "Let me come down there and we'll talk privately." "Actually," I interrupted, "we're done talking, both of us. Tyler just finished telling everyone here how he's man enough to take another man's wife, isn't that right?" Tyler's face drained. The crowd leaned closer, phones up, savoring every second of his collapse. "Claire," I said coldly, "find yourself another gym, and Tyler, find another career." I ended the call and slid the phone away. Tyler stumbled backward toward the exit, the swagger gone, his reputation shredded. "Where are you running to, Tyler?" I asked as he reached the front door. "I thought you wanted to humiliate me." He froze, hand on the handle, trapped by his pride and the dozens of eyes burning into him. "It's over," he muttered, voice small. "Just leave me alone." "Oh, it's over," I agreed, stepping forward. "But not the way you pictured." He pressed himself against the door. No longer the confident trainer who'd taunted me minutes earlier. Just a scared kid, cornered by consequences. "You know what happens next?" I asked, my tone casual. "Those videos? Already uploading. Social media doesn't waste time. By tomorrow morning, every gym in Riverbend will know about Tyler Mason, the trainer who couldn't land a single punch on a man old enough to be his father." "You tricked me," he whispered. "No, kid, you trapped yourself. I only handed you the rope." The crowd murmured, hungry for every second of his downfall. His tough guy mask had crumbled beyond repair. "One more thing," I added, almost as an afterthought. "Better read your contract. Most gyms don't keep trainers who sleep with married clients. Bad for business when it hits the spotlight." The blood drained from his face. Please, he started. The thing about consequences, I cut in, raising my hand to silence him, is they don't care about please. You chose your path. You wanted to prove you could take another man's wife, humiliate him in front of a crowd. Now you get to live with the cost. I stepped aside, giving him a clear line to the door. Here's some free advice. Next time you try to take something from a man, figure out what kind of man you're dealing with first. He fumbled with the handle, desperate to escape, when the doors swung open. Claire burst inside, flushed from running. Henry, wait, she started, then froze at the sight of Tyler, split-lipped, disheveled hair, and humiliation dripping off him. What happened? She demanded. Your boyfriend tried to teach me a lesson, I said calmly. Didn't quite work out. Claire's gaze darted between us, the scattered weights, the crowd filming, and Tyler's broken stance. Tyler? She wit. Spared, but he couldn't even lift his eyes to meet hers. Tyler's bravado had evaporated. The once dominant trainer was nothing more than a frightened kid who had pushed too far. This isn't how I wanted you to find out, Claire whispered, her voice barely carrying. Find out what? I asked coldly. That my wife was sneaking around with a boy who can't even throw a punch? I figured that out months ago. Tyler shoved past her and bolted out the door, leaving Claire frozen in front of dozens of witnesses. Phones raised, recording every second of her shame. Henry, please, she begged. Let me explain. I studied her for a long moment, then shook my head. No need, Claire. I understand exactly. I walked toward the exit, but stopped at the front desk where the manager of Titan Fitness Club stood pale and silent. You might want to revisit your trainer policies, I told him quietly, and maybe invest in stronger liability coverage. Then I turned back to Claire, who still stood paralyzed at the center of the gym floor, surrounded by people capturing her downfall. My voice carried so all could hear. When you get home tonight, divorce papers will be waiting on the kitchen table. My lawyer already has the photos from your little uptown cafe dates with Tyler and the messages you thought were private. Funny what a private consultant can uncover in a couple of weeks. Her face was drained of color. You hired someone? 11 years in an elite tactical unit taught me one thing. Always gather intelligence before striking. Tyler thought it was about muscle and swagger. You thought it was about me being too old to notice. Both of you were wrong. Claire's eyes darted nervously as the truth of her affair spread across every phone camera in the room. There was no hiding now. The house? In my name. The cars? In my name. The joint accounts? I moved the money yesterday, everything. Legal, documented. You can't do this, she whispered, her voice breaking. It's already done. I let the silence linger, then added, and you might want to ask Tyler about his career. I hear Titan Fitness doesn't keep trainers who drag their brand through the mud. I glanced once more at the abandoned water bottle and towel lying near the weight rack where his humiliation had begun. Enjoy the rest of your evening, I said, and walked out into the cool air of Riverbend, Montana. Half a year later, life had moved forward. I was in my new downtown apartment, coffee in hand, reading the business section when a headline caught my eye. Titan Fitness Club closes permanently after viral scandal drives clients away. Tyler Mason had tried to land jobs at other gyms, but the internet never forgets. The videos of him being dismantled by a man nearly 20 years older followed him everywhere. Last I'd heard, he was stocking shelves at a health shop in Fairview. His dream of being a fitness influencer burned to ash by 30 minutes of footage. Claire? She'd moved in with her sister after the divorce finalized. She fought for half the house, but the evidence of her affair left her with nothing. Montana's laws might call it no fault, but adultery still weighs heavily when dividing assets. I'd started running again, rediscovering trails through Millstone Park, the wide sky, the crisp mountain air. It reminded me why I'd loved Montana all along. One morning my phone buzzed with a text from my sister in California. Saw the gym videos. Proud of how you handled it. I smiled and slipped the phone away. The clips had gone viral, but not for the reasons Tyler had hoped. They became a lesson shared across Riverbend. The difference between looking strong and being strong, between showing off and surviving. That evening, I drove toward the Silver Range, parked on a quiet overlook, and watched the sun sink behind the peaks. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace. Tyler Mason's story had become a permanent cautionary tale, replayed endlessly online, his downfall serving as entertainment for others and as closure for me. Claire's punishment didn't come from me. It came from the world watching. Once the affair surfaced, she lost far more than a marriage. The same circles that once admired her confidence now turned their backs, whispers replacing smiles. She had to rebuild from scratch, carrying the weight of her public betrayal wherever she went. For Tyler, the humiliation never faded. Those clips circulating online became his permanent resume. Every failed swing, every desperate lunge, every word he wished he'd never said. His downfall was archived in pixels, impossible to erase. The videos weren't just entertainment, they were evidence. Proof of choices made and the consequences that followed. Neither Claire nor Tyler could outrun what they had created for themselves. And me? I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to raise my fists in anger. The truth was stronger than any punch. Sometimes the best response to betrayal is patience, waiting long enough for people to expose who they really are and letting the world judge them by their own actions.